Details in this next story may be disturbing to hear. There are now criminal charges in that deadly motel shooting.
And the prosecutors say a man killed his girlfriend in a motel room and casually walked away.
Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. Port Motel, Milwaukee's northwest side. Room number 5. A cleaner makes his rounds that morning. He knocks on the door. A woman's voice answers from inside. She tells him she needs one more night. He moves on. 2 hours pass. He comes back. Knocks again. This time, nothing. No voice, no movement, just silence behind that door. He knocks one more time. Still nothing. He uses his key and pushes the door open. 29-year-old Alicia Renee Machnik is lying on the bed, a gunshot wound to her head. A mother of 2 daughters, 14-year-old Melina and 2-year-old Sh0t, dead in a budget motel room, while her husband had already walked out hours earlier. But here's what makes this case different. Surveillance cameras captured everything. Lance White, Alicia's husband, left that room late Wednesday morning. And after he walked out, nobody else entered. Nobody else left. Just him walking away while his wife lay inside. Gone. So what happened during those 48 hours before the cleaner found her? Why had this couple checked into the Port Motel multiple times over the past several months? What were they running from? Or was Alicia trapped in something she couldn't escape? Her husband walked out that morning. She never walked out at all. Welcome to Shadows of Crime. I'm your host, and today we're covering the death of Alicia Renee Machnik, a case that shook Milwaukee and exposed the deadly reality of domestic violence hiding behind closed motel room doors. If you're here for the truth, hit that subscribe button right now. And smash the like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear this story. Drop a comment and tell us, where are you watching from today? Because this story matters, and Alicia's name deserves to be remembered. Let's get into it. Alicia Renee Machnik was 29 years old when she died, a mother to 2 daughters separated by 12 years, 14-year-old Melina and 2-year-old Sh0t. 2 different stages of life. 2 girls who both needed their mother. Her sister, Morgan Rhea, described Alicia as the heart of their family, the kind of woman who held everything together even when her own world was crumbling. Alicia was the one who showed up, the one who sacrificed, the one who kept going for her daughters no matter what was happening behind the scenes. But something had changed. Alicia had been married to Lance White for about a year, and according to her family, that's when things started to fall apart. They said she had spiraled out of control since the marriage began. The woman they knew, the devoted mother, the reliable sister, was slipping away. Before Lance, Alicia had been in an on-and-off relationship with another man for 5 years. Police interviewed him after her death. He told investigators he knew about her motel stays with Lance. He also admitted he frequently sent Alicia money. Why? The reports don't say, but it suggests she needed financial help. Maybe she was dependent. Maybe she was stuck. And then there were the motel stays. Court documents revealed that Alicia and Lance had checked into the Port Motel near 97th and Appleton multiple times over the past several months. Not once. Not twice. Multiple times. This wasn't a romantic getaway. This wasn't a spontaneous trip. This was a pattern. When a married couple keeps returning to a cheap motel instead of staying home, something is deeply wrong. Were they hiding? Were they using drugs? Was Alicia trying to escape something worse at home? Or was she already trapped with nowhere else to go? The Port Motel wasn't a luxury spot. It was the kind of place people stayed when they needed somewhere temporary, somewhere cheap, somewhere to disappear for a while. And that's exactly what Alicia and Lance did, over and over again. Alicia's family could feel something was wrong. They watched her change after marrying Lance, They saw the signs. But like so many families dealing with domestic violence, they didn't know how to pull her out. They didn't know how bad things had gotten until it was too late. Melina, at 14, was old enough to understand what was happening around her, old enough to worry about her mother, old enough to remember everything. Jackie, at just 2 years old, wouldn't remember any of this. She'd grow up with photographs and stories told by family members. She'd ask questions one day that nobody would want to answer. Alicia was the kind of mother who showed up, even when everything was falling apart. But something was wrong, and the people closest to her could feel it. By January 14th, 2026, that feeling became a nightmare they'd never wake up from. The Port Motel sits near 97th Street and Appleton Avenue on Milwaukee's northwest side. It's not the kind of place you'd choose for a vacation. It's cheap, temporary, almost the kind of spot where people go when they need to disappear for a while. And Alicia Machnik and Lance White had been disappearing there for months. Monday, January 12th, 2026, afternoon. Alicia and Lance checked into room number 5 together. Motel records confirmed it. Surveillance footage captured them walking in, husband and wife, together. For the next 48 hours, they stayed inside that room. Nobody knows exactly what happened during those 2 days. There were no disturbances reported, no noise complaints, no calls for help. From the outside, everything looked quiet. But quiet doesn't mean safe. Wednesday morning arrived. The motel cleaner made his rounds. He knocked on the door of room 5. Alicia answered. She was alive. She told him she wanted to stay another night. He said okay and moved on to clean other rooms. That was the last time anyone saw Alicia Renee Machnik alive. A couple of hours later, Lance White walked out of room 5. Surveillance cameras at the Port Motel caught him leaving. He didn't run. He didn't look panicked. He just walked out like it was any other day. And here's where the evidence becomes impossible to ignore. After Lance left that room, nobody else entered. Nobody else exited. The footage was clear. No mysterious stranger. No unknown suspect. Just Lance White walking away while Alicia remained inside. The cleaner came back a few hours later. He knocked on the door again. No answer. He knocked one more time. Still nothing. He used his key and opened the door. Alicia was lying on the bed, a gunshot wound to her head, dead. So if Lance left that morning, and nobody else entered that room after he walked out, who killed Alicia? The answer is exactly what you think. But the story he told police, that's where this gets twisted. Let's talk about what investigators found. When police arrived at the Port Motel, they secured room 5 and started pulling evidence. They found a bullet casing, a bloodied but intact bullet. And they found Lance White's birth certificate and social security card inside the room, his identification, his documents, proof he'd been there. They pulled the surveillance footage and watched the timeline unfold. Monday, Alicia and Lance check in. Wednesday morning, Lance leaves. Wednesday afternoon, Alicia is found dead. No forced entry, no signs of a break-in, no evidence that anyone else had been in that room. The motel stays weren't random. If you've ever ignored a red flag in a relationship, drop a comment. Because Alicia's family saw the signs, and they couldn't save her. By Wednesday afternoon, January 14th, it was too late. The cleaner found her body. Police were called, and then Lance White was already gone. But not for long. 2:30 in the afternoon, January 14th, 2026. The motel cleaner returned to room 5. He knocked on the door. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. Alicia Renee Machnik was lying on the bed, a gunshot wound to her head, a bullet casing on the floor, a bloodied but intact bullet recovered from the scene. Blood everywhere. The cleaner immediately called 911. Milwaukee Police Department responded to the Port Motel within minutes. They secured room 5. They documented the scene. They started asking questions, and the answers all pointed in one direction. Detectives pulled the motel's surveillance footage. They watched Lance White leave that morning. They watched the hours pass. They watched the cleaner go in and come running out. And here's what they didn't see: anyone else entering or exiting room 5 after Lance walked out. The search warrant filed in. The case stated it clearly. No one else enters or exits the room. So where did Lance go? He drove to his mother's house, just 2 miles away from the Port Motel. Not far. Just far enough to put distance between himself and the room where his wife was dead. His mother later told police that her son was acting out of character. She said he seemed like he was under the influence of some sort of drugs. He was disheveled, disoriented, not himself. She didn't know what had happened, but she knew something was wrong. So she made a decision. She took him to the hospital, and that's where Milwaukee police found him. Wednesday night, so less than 12 hours after Alicia's body was discovered. Officers arrived at the hospital and arrested Lance White. Lance didn't run. He didn't hide. He went to his mom, and when police found him, he told them a story that nobody expected. According to court documents, Lance confessed. He admitted to shooting Alicia. But his version of events? That's where things get twisted. Lance told investigators that he and Alicia had been getting high together in the motel room. He claimed that Alicia told him to shoot her. Why? Because she was scared. Scared that her ex, Melina's father, would kill them both when he got out of prison in 11 months. Lance said Alicia begged him to do it, so he fired the shot. Then he threw the gun in a sewer and ran. That's his story. But here's the problem with that story. If Alicia wanted to die, why did she tell the cleaner she wanted to stay another night? Just hours before she was killed, she answered the door. She was alive. She requested an extension. She wanted more time. Does that sound like someone who was ready to die? And if she was so terrified of her ex getting out of prison, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she call the police? Why didn't she reach out to her family for help? Her sister Morgan, her on and off boyfriend who had been sending her money. She had people who cared about her. Instead, she stayed in a motel room with Lance White, and she ended up dead. Lance's confession might explain what happened, but it doesn't explain why, and it doesn't make his story believable. After shooting Alicia, Lance admitted he tried to get another motel room nearby, but he didn't have identification, and so he went to his mother's house instead. That's where guilt, fear, or whatever was running through his mind caught up with him. His mother saw it. She knew something was wrong, and she took him to the hospital, where police were already looking for him. Do you believe Lance's story? Or is this just another abuser trying to play the victim? Comment below. I want to hear what you think. While Milwaukee police were still calling it an investigation into unknown suspects, Alicia's family wasn't waiting for official statements. Her sister, Morgan Rhea, took to social media immediately. She posted Lance White's name and photo for the world to see. "This is the guy that killed my older sister, Alicia. Please be on the lookout for him. His name is Lance White. He shot and killed her today, in Milwaukee, at a hotel around 2:30 p.m. Morgan didn't wait for charges to be filed. She didn't wait for police confirmation. She knew who killed her sister, and she said his name out loud. That's what grief does. It refuses to stay silent. The family launched a GoFundMe campaign titled Support for Melina and Jackie after the loss of their mother. The page didn't hold back. It explicitly named Lance White as responsible for Alicia's death. It asked for donations to cover funeral costs and support for her 2 daughters. By Friday morning, the campaign had raised over $4,600 toward a $10,000 goal. But money can't bring a mother back. Money can't answer the questions those 2 girls will ask for the rest of their lives. The GoFundMe page included a statement from the family. "This should never have happened. We want justice for my sister, and we want people to understand that domestic violence destroys families forever. Our family is asking for prayers, privacy, and support as we grieve and try to protect her children during this time." Friday, January 16th. Lance White was arrested. Morgan posted again. "He was arrested. I feel so much relief. But the damage is already done. My sister is gone forever. And even though he's in jail, I still will never get the closure." Relief, but no closure. Because how do you get closure when your sister is dead? When 2 little girls lost their mother? When a man you trusted around your family turned out to be a killer? Alicia's death wasn't an isolated incident. Milwaukee was already drowning in violence by mid-January 2026. At least 6 people had been killed, and about half of those deaths were tied to domestic violence. 6 homicides, 3 of them happening inside homes, inside relationships, behind closed doors where nobody could see until it was too late. Alicia Renee Machnick became part of that statistic. Another name, another mother gone, another family destroyed. But her family refused to let her be forgotten. A bystander at the scene, Kathy Perry, spoke to reporters after police arrived at the Port Motel. She said, "Stop the violence. Love one another. I hate to see the tragedy going on all around the world. To see all the police over there and to see what's going on, what's happening." She continued, "I just pray to God, whoever is the son or daughter in this, who got murdered tonight, I just pray to God everybody take this seriously and start loving one another." But love doesn't fix this. Prayers don't bring Alicia back. Melina is 14 years old. She'll remember her mother's voice, her laugh, the way she showed up no matter what. And she'll grow up knowing that her stepfather is the reason her mother is gone. Jockey is 2 years old. She won't remember anything, just photos, just stories told by family members who are trying to keep Alicia's memory alive, just questions nobody wants to answer. Where's my mama? And somebody will have to tell her the truth, that her mother was killed, that she died in a motel room, that the man responsible confessed to pulling the trigger. Alicia's family described the pain as immeasurable. They asked for justice. They asked for support. But more than anything, they asked the world to remember her name. Because Alicia Renee Machnick wasn't just a statistic. She was a mother, a sister, a daughter. And she deserved better. Monday, January 20th, 2026. Lance White was formally charged with first-degree intentional homicide in the death of his wife, Alicia Renee Machnick. First-degree intentional homicide. That's the highest murder charge in Wisconsin. It means prosecutors believe Lance planned to kill Alicia, that he intended to take her life. And the evidence they have, it's overwhelming. Let's break down what the prosecution is working with. First, the surveillance footage. Cameras at the Port Motel captured Lance White leaving room 5 late Wednesday morning. After he walked out, nobody else entered. Nobody else exited. The footage is clear. There's no mystery suspect, no unknown intruder. Just Lance leaving and Alicia dead inside. Second, physical evidence found in room 5. Lance's birth certificate and social security card were recovered from the scene. His identification, his documents, proof that he was there. Proof that room 5 was where he'd been staying with Alicia. Third, the timeline. Wednesday morning, the cleaner knocked on the door. Alicia answered. She was alive. She told him she wanted to stay another night. Hours later, Lance left. Shortly after 2:30 in the afternoon, investigators believe Alicia was shot. When the cleaner returned, she was dead. The timeline doesn't lie. Alicia was alive when the cleaner first knocked. She was dead after Lance left, and nobody else went into that room. Fourth, Lance's own confession. He admitted to shooting Alicia, and he told police they were getting high together. He claimed she asked him to kill her because she was scared of her ex getting out of prison. He said he fired the shot, threw the gun in a sewer, and ran. Even if his story is true, even if drugs were involved, even if his judgment was impaired, he still confessed to killing his wife. Fifth, his mother's statement. She told police Lance showed up at her house acting out of character, like he was under the influence of drugs, disheveled, not himself. She took him to the hospital because she knew something was wrong, and that's where police arrested him. So what will the prosecution argue? This wasn't a mercy killing. This was control. Alicia didn't ask to die. She asked to stay another night. Now, what might the defense try? They could claim drugs impaired Lance's judgment, that he wasn't thinking clearly, that he didn't understand what he was doing. They could argue Alicia was suicidal, even though there's zero evidence to support that claim. They might try to paint Lance as a victim too, a man manipulated or coerced into doing something he didn't want to do. But here's the reality check. The facts don't lie. And the facts say Lance White killed his wife in a motel room and walked away. He left her body on that bed. And he went to his mother's house. He tried to get another motel room. He didn't call for help. He didn't turn himself in. He ran. Alicia Renee Machnick deserved better. Her daughters deserved better. And no confession, no excuse, no defense strategy changes what happened in room 5. If you've ever stayed silent when you saw someone being abused, this is your wake-up call. Comment, "I see you," if you're ready to speak up next time. Because silence protects abusers, and speaking up saves lives. Alicia's case wasn't without warning signs. They were there. Her family saw them. But knowing something is wrong and knowing how to stop it are two different things. The red flags were clear. Repeated motel stays over several months. When couples avoid going home, they're avoiding witnesses. They're hiding. Alicia's family noticed she had changed after marrying Lance. They said she spiraled out of control. That's not just a personality shift. That's someone losing themselves in a dangerous relationship. Financial dependence was another sign. Her ex-boyfriend of 5 years was still sending her money. Why? Because she needed it. Because she couldn't support herself. Financial control is one of the most common tactics abusers use to trap their victims. Lance claimed they were getting high together. Substance use doesn't cause domestic violence, but it escalates danger. It lowers inhibitions. It makes violent situations deadlier. And isolation. Alicia was pulled away from her support systems, away from family, away from stability. Trapped in motel rooms with the man who would eventually kill her. So what could have saved her? Friends and family asking directly, "Are you safe?" Not, "Are you okay?" but "Are you safe?" That question demands a real answer. Substance abuse intervention programs that recognize the link between addiction and domestic violence. Legal protection for victims facing threats from multiple sources. Community awareness training for motel staff to recognize and report signs of abuse. Milwaukee needs more funding for shelters, faster response times, better training for officers responding to domestic violence calls. Alicia's daughters need justice, but they also need a world where this doesn't keep happening, where mothers come home, where room 5 stays empty. Alicia Renee Machnick was 29 years old. She was a mother, a sister, a daughter. She was the heart of her family, the woman who showed up even when everything was falling apart. She deserved better than room 5. She deserved better than Lance White. Her daughters will grow up without her. Melina will carry memories of her mother's voice, her laugh, her love. But she'll also carry the weight of knowing how she lost her. Jockey will grow up with photographs and stories. She'll ask questions that will break hearts every time they're answered. That's a tragedy we can't undo. But we can make sure Alicia's story isn't forgotten. How many more Alicias will it take before we start paying attention? How many more motel rooms? How many more mothers who never make it home? Milwaukee saw 6 homicides by mid-January 2026, half of them tied to domestic violence. Alicia became one of those numbers. But she wasn't just a statistic. She was real. Her pain was real. Her daughter's loss is real. And it keeps happening. Over and over. Behind closed doors, in motel rooms, in homes where nobody's watching until it's too late. If this story hit you, share it. Talk about it. Don't let Alicia's name fade into the background. Subscribe to Shadows of Crime for more stories that demand justice. Stories that refuse to let victims be forgotten. And remember, domestic violence thrives in silence. It hides in places where people are too afraid or too uncomfortable to speak up. So speak up. Every single time. Ask the hard questions. Make the uncomfortable calls. Because the next Alicia might be someone you know, and your voice could be the one that saves her. This is Shadows of Crime. Stay safe, stay loud, and never look away. Rest in peace, Alicia Renee Machnick. Your name will be remembered.